But understanding that life isn't exactly as you believe it to be, that's your personal opinion of it, is where being a good thinker actually matters. It's where you learn how to slow down your thinking with questions, not conclusions. How you can actually get good at practicing just asking yourself questions in your mind before you form solid opinions or react emotionally to whatever's happening in your life. But I think that's really the biggest thing. The bad thinker, very quickly, I'm going to do the air quotes for those of you watching, very quickly thinks and very quickly understands things. It's the good thinker that knows that they don't fully understand things and actually has to consider what's in front of them. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, VIN
and I'm Shane.
And today we are going to do a very interesting deep dive. It's been on my mind for quite a bit. I've been pondering it over and over like a modern day philosopher myself. The big curiosity of today is, are you a good thinker? Hell, am I a good thinker? Well, I don't really know. All I know is that it's been on my mind a lot. So much so that I've been... Yeah, I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah.
So today's episode is going to be jam-packed with some practical steps. We got 6 steps for you that are going to blow your mind on how to get into a better state of being a good thinker. We're going to talk a little bit about what we feel is the biggest distraction and dopamine addiction in today's society, and most importantly, how you can overcome your own addiction to not living a fulfilling life, because that's what it is. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what it feels like or how you can start unwinding this. Maybe talk about a few mantras and some things that you could give yourself to really start overcoming it. And this is going to be a jam-packed episode, so make sure you stick around for all of it and listen to the end.
And it's just going to be me and you too.
Hell yeah. This is going to be the best. So let's dive in, Shane. Shane, it's been a while since we did a episode, just the boys. It's been quite some time.
Did you miss me?
Yes, I
wow,
have.
That was a delayed response.
Well, I had to think about it, right?
Jeez,
because
there's only two answers here. It's like, did I miss you? That's what I felt like I just got.
No, I said yes because I had to think for a moment, because I was like, did I miss Shane? And it's like, well, we do talk a relative amount throughout the week. So it's like, did I? And then it's like, but you know what? But we haven't had a OG type podcast like this. So after I considered that just because we talk doesn't mean it's the same experience, I was like, you know what? Yes. Because I miss this experience specifically.
Putting it out in front of everybody compared to our hour-long phone calls where we say goodnight to each other.
Correct. Don't forget the good morning sunshine text.
Yeah, I do not miss those. But yes, let's brass it out. So what's the combo today? What's our little duo here, a little duet conversation we're gonna have today? What are we gonna talk to people about?
What's been on my mind as of lately is, am I a good thinker? And I feel like for me, I've been heavily in the pursuit as of lately of how do I become a better thinker? How do I understand life differently? So much so that I feel like it's almost becoming a bit all-consuming. I wrote a newsletter on this topic. My last newsletter was on it. I've been seeking out my own therapist, coach, somebody that could just challenge me, because I'm hungry to think, Shane. And then the other thought is like, I don't even know how fully I want to, as I continue to grow in this life, how fully I want to continue building my coaching brand as is. Like, I think it'd be cool to just become a philosopher, and like, instead of people hiring me as a coach, hire me as a philosopher at their side. Like all the ancient kings used to have philosophers. Why don't we bring back philosophers being at the forefront of business and life?
Vincent, Socrates, Infante. Kind of has a ring to it.
We need to we can't include Socrates. We just need to change the name. It's going to be Vinocrates.
Wow. Yikes. That's probably a little slap towards Italians and to Socrates. That's pretty funny though. But so bringing it back to a good thinker, what classifies as a bad thinker, as a mediocre thinker, as a philosopher, if we're going to put that on the pedestal here?
So I think the biggest thing that classifies somebody as being a bad thinker is something pops into their mind and they immediately act on it. And I'm not talking about like that's a great
You mean like
idea and
impulsiveness? Like, is that what you mean?
no, not an impulsiveness. And that's what I want to clarify. It's like the I give you the example. Thinking or life for that matter is a personal thing, right? We don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're a bad thinker, something happens, you very quickly interpret the data, which means you're running on your subconscious mind. You're going back into your files of the meanings that you've given to things, people, situations, experiences, emotions, all of that. And you're instantly pulling it and you're saying, this just happened. This means that. So I'm going to respond in kind because I know exactly what that means. But understanding that life isn't exactly as you believe it to be, that's your personal opinion of it, is where being a good thinker actually matters. It's where you learn how to slow down your thinking with questions, not conclusions. How you can actually get good at practicing just asking yourself questions in your mind before you form solid opinions or react emotionally to whatever's happening in your life. So I think that's the biggest difference. I mean, there's a few more things that we could go into, but I think that's really the biggest thing. The bad thinker very quickly, I'm going to do the air quotes for those of you watching, very quickly thinks and very quickly understands things. It's the good thinker that knows that they don't fully understand things and actually has to consider what's in front of them.
I mean, and we're going to have to do a dive on this because in theory that sounds great, but my first thing is who has time for that, right?
Good
My
thinkers.
life specifically is, I mean, overseeing the people that I see, the businesses, the family, the friends, the all these little departments in my life. I wish I had, and I need to make it. I need to have time to myself where I can think, where I can analyze, where I can brainstorm. But I mean, for my job or for other people's job, do they have time with that? Do they have time to actually be in deep thought and to be a better thinker? Or do they just have to react, do? I mean, does that classify as, a bad thinker, a mediocrity thinker? Like these philosophers, like especially for going for Socrates, all they had was time. They didn't have majority of distractions, right? It was teachings, it was writings, and it was thinking. I just feel like that's kind of what comes with being a great philosopher is the time that you have to yourself.
It's an interesting one. I think most people think it takes a lot of time, and it does. However, it doesn't in the way you're imagining. To be able to slow down your thinking is not something that's too far-fetched, even for a fast-paced lifestyle. It's truly just the capability to challenge yourself before you do whatever it is you're about to do, which, by the way, you're going to do whatever you're about to do anyway. And then there's like this almost this sunken time fallacy. Well, if I spend more time doing it, I'm not acting agile enough. Fair. But in acting too agile, you might do something that's actually going to cause a negative situation to occur. And then you're going to spend more time fixing that negative situation than if you had just thought it through properly in the first place. So the question is, can you not just become a good thinker, but can you become a quick thinker? And so for me, like, I'll give you a good example. I created this concept and I call it microdosing sadness. A lot of people that struggle with changing their perspective might, in today's day and age, start microdosing psychedelics like shrooms, right? And why do they do that? Well, it has the ability to shift your perspective. And it's not so powerful that you're going on a drug trip. Instead, it's powerful enough that it just keeps creating the awareness so you have more perspective throughout the day so you could make better decisions and be more open to what's going on in life as opposed to assumptive and reactive. And so the way I use this concept of microdosing sadness, for instance, is like, and mind you, this all happens very quick. I'm running around the house. I have a million things to do. I got a call. I got a client. I got this. I got that. I got an email. I got meetings. I got paperwork. I got 5 unanswered text messages. And then I see my daughter and she goes, "Daddy, play." And I'm like, I got no time to play. and then freeze, pause. And mind you, Shane, I'm gonna spell it all out and break it down, but this is literally happening in fractions of a second in my mind, but it doesn't seem like that by the way I'm about to explain it. So I go, pause, hold on a second. She just asked you to play. You have a million things to do. Now, in the microdosing of sadness, I fast forward myself into being like a 90-year-old. And I imagine that one day I'll look back on my life and I'll think about what really mattered. And it'll never be any of the meetings, the text messages, the phone calls, the emails, the clients, the whatever it is. It'll always be those moments that I can never ever have again, which is my daughter in her youth. Then I bring it back into the near present. And I consider by the time she's 6, she'll still ask me to play, but it won't be as much. And then by the time she's 10, she'll probably ask me to play less. And then by the time she's a teenager, she'll never ask me to play ever again. If she's even still doing it by the time she's 10. So then I bring into my awareness that this is a pure fleeting moment that I'll never have another opportunity of again one day. I don't know when that day is, but I'm aware it's coming. I know it'll be here, and I know there's nothing I could do to stop it. And then I bring myself all the way right back to the moment in time that I'm in. And I say, you should play with her, even if it's just a few minutes. And I'll set a timer on my phone for like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. And I'll give her the acknowledgement and I'll play with her. And obviously, like, this all sounds like, damn, Vin, that's a lot of thinking to do. But this happens like the speed of light, snap of a finger. Like, you're going to be 80 and none of this shit you're worried about matters. You're going to miss it in a few years. It'll never happen again. And you don't know when that last day is. So sit down and play with her. And so that's kind of a big part of the process for me.
I feel like that was very methodical. And it brings us to that last episode that we had with Dr. Eugene Choi, where it's essentially priorities and acknowledgement. I feel like your priorities in order, which every parent, their primary focus should be their kids, especially in their youth. I mean, I definitely emulate everything that you're saying. I think my kids, where they're at, almost 2 and just turning 4, like the way my son is into toys lasts for a day, a week, a month, and then he's not into it anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing with playtime, right? So actually acknowledging it and seeing it and putting it in front of everything else. I mean, we're in the same boat. The question is, though, how do you quickly get there? How does somebody who has dealing with stress, who's an entrepreneur, who's a business owner, who has a regular 9 to 5, how do you actually go through those moments so quickly and saying, oh my God, this is the most important thing. I need to focus on this first. And this is what matters, right? I know it's acknowledgement, but what are those steps that people can use right off the bat that can change their perspective?
I thought you said steps because I have 6. And here's the thing though, right? This is the funny thing. You're saying it in the worst way possible because you're asking what's the quickest way to get there.
That's the American way.
It is the American way, but that's the problem. That's the problem with a lot of this. We've been conditioned improperly. It's not feasible to say what's the quickest way for something like this. You're basically asking, how can I John, you better cut this. How can I rewire my brain in a short period of time? Well, there is somewhat of a quick way to do it. The quickest way to do it is repetition, repetition, repetition. But if we say, well, I'm limited on time, how could you expect quick results if you can't utilize repetition, right? It's the concept of how to become a master at something. Takes 10,000 hours to master something, but they don't tell you it takes 10,000 hours in 10 years. They just say it takes 10,000 hours. If you could get 10,000 hours done in 1 year, congrats, you're a master in 1 year. Or conversely, it could take you 30 years, but you'll be a master in 30 years. So the caveat to all of this is it can be done as quickly or as slowly as it needs to be based on your ability to put in the repetition. But let's talk about what steps people could start taking today to actually make this applicable to their life. Well, I already mentioned step 1, slowing down thinking with questions, not conclusions, getting out of reactivity and getting into proactively. Asking yourself questions before forming solid opinions is extremely important. So step 2 is something along the lines of training yourself to hold opposing ideas simultaneously. Imagine, if you will, You're having an actual conversation with two parts of yourself in your mind. And every time you believe something to be true, you're just asking yourself, what's the strongest argument against this? And can I entertain that with a form of curiosity? Because what you're doing now is you're breaking your patterns of wanting to jump into a meaning and a solution and an answer when you don't fully know. Another really good habit, step 3, and this one will require a little bit more time because this is a very intentional action, is creating a daily thinking journal. So it's a habit, like very simple, every single day. Write down maybe even something small, just like a paragraph or a sentence, to be able to understand something that maybe you're struggling with, something that you really love to learn deeper about, but you're really having trouble conceptualizing it. And then again, follow up that thing with a list of like 3 different angles or perspectives on that same issue that just holds multiple viewpoints of it. Step 5, and I think this is kind of where I'm at in my life currently, is I'm studying a lot of philosophy. Most people, and again, this probably goes back to the American way, most people are looking for the productivity hacks. How do I get there quicker, Vin? Or let me listen to that motivational content that fires me up so I could do the thing. But that's not understanding. It's just energy being poured into you, right? So study philosophy, like 10 to 20 minutes a day, reading these different perspectives that can challenge your ego, because that's really where we get stuck in our own ego processes. And last one, and this is my favorite one, and I think I do this very often, is step 6. Build a bias interrupter. So whenever you're seeing content or you're entertaining a conversation, it's massively important if you could ask yourself, am I looking to confirm my beliefs or challenge them? Pause after you ask yourself that and search for a counter source, some sort of an opposing view intentionally, and then really see what comes up for you so that you can even understand, how are you operating? Do you want to just confirm, like if you think that person sucks, do you want to confirm that they suck? Or would you like to challenge yourself to maybe say, why do they have to suck? What if they don't suck? In fact, what if they were really good, but I was too in my own way to see that, and I only can consider that they suck? What if I held something different? So these 6 steps are some of the quickest ways that you can start, but the repetition is the biggest thing that you're going to need to do if you want to get anywhere in this challenging your thinking process.
I think those are phenomenal steps. And I see a lot of that in the 1% podcast that we kind of talk about too. I think those same steps are utilized for mindset training, from what I've learned from you and some other great coaches that we've had on here, including family and friends that have been in sobriety, as far as acknowledgement and transitioning and retraining their mind into just basic steps. Now, the real question is Vin going to be able to do this when his second kid is born? And then it's going to be dividing in time and spending in time together. You're going to be on a new train, my friend. And I'm curious on if there's going to be step 7 and 8 after this too, because my son is 4 and now it's dates, right? I just took my son to go watch a movie and spend one-on-one time without his sister. And then I have to do the same thing with my daughter and show this love and affection together, and then also separately as well. And now you have, okay, well, now I have to run the business, and now I have to do this with my wife and then my friends. And it's just a different element. You have to compartmentalize, the different areas of family, business, different kids, friendships. It's prioritizing what matters to you without, putting too much favor into it. But getting back into the steps, into the actual philosophy, I think that's a phenomenal 6-step program that I need to essentially partake in a little bit more. I think the biggest distraction that I currently have, that every single person have, is this right here. So I don't know if this is a good segue into into that. But yeah, I think phones and technology is the ultimate destroyer in everything, mainly in relationships.
I think the ultimate destroyer is even deeper than phones. It's dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
because we
Cheap
overload
free
our
dopamine.
dopamine sensors,
Right.
right? Obviously, yeah, the phone's a part of that, but
The phone is the source of it. Everything comes with that, right? Right. We were
mm,
talking about that, and we even had a great interview on there too, where it's social media and videos and pornography and gambling and sports and watching shows on your phone, and it's just cheap free dopamine.
right, 100%. And so you know what it is? We get into all the different emotions, and I think that's a big part of it too, right? Like, see, being a good thinker can actually, and this will I can defend this point on like anything, because being a good thinker will also help you outsmart your dopamine addictions. Like, you're aware, okay, I'm gonna go grab my phone because I want to go watch porn, right? Like, you're gonna have that come into your mind. You're like, oh, I'm stressed. I gotta let me go grab this thing and go, freaking do what I'm gonna do. But then you pause, like, how is this serving me?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want to do this? What's so stressful in my life that I think this is the only way? Like, there's nothing that I truly believe, as I study it more, I don't think there's anything that good thinking can't solve. So then the question is, instead of how do we become a good thinker, although that is a very big and massive question, the other question is, why do we live in such low level, low vibrational states of frequency where we don't even desire to think, and we'd rather just act in a way that doesn't support who we'd like to become? Because we're consciously choosing that. Nobody's telling you to pull up your phone, go scroll TikTok for 20 hours. Nobody's telling you to go watch porn for an hour. Nobody's telling you to play video games for
I
five
can tell
hours.
you. I
Tell
can
me.
tell you. I can tell you
It's the
very
devil,
easily.
isn't it? The
No,
devil's lettuce. The devil's
it's
gotcha.
because life to most people, even with great families, great friends, isn't as great as everybody think it is. From childhood, from no responsibilities. Like let's take this back. I mean, you're a little younger than I am, but I'm going to take you
I'm a
back to when
youngin'.
I was in the 90s. My parents would throw me outside. We'd play with our cul-de-sac friends. We didn't have a game plan. We didn't have money. We were outside playing. If we were thirsty, we drank from the hose,
I did
right?
that.
If we had a bathroom, we'd had to figure it out, right? Lunch, you go in, you grab a quick PB&J or whatever the case may be, and you're as happy as a clam.
Baloney.
That's just how life was. It was easy. There wasn't technology like the phone. There was video games and things like that, but life was easy. As an adult, and that's strictly the demographic I'm talking about right now, life's hard. You have
Mm.
responsibilities. You have bills to pay for. It's not all about you. So if I can get a quick release, whatever that may be, watching TikTok or videos on YouTube and doom scrolling or whatever your, vices are, that's why. It's a quick escape.
You know what the problem is? The problem is that people have the ability to distract themselves from problems. Because you're right, it's a quick release. Life in today's world has never been easier. We used to have to live in a way where we grew all our own food. We had to walk miles to get fresh water. We had to figure out how to build our own houses, maintain our own houses, maintain our own land, make sure that we had enough food, make sure that we had money, protect the house from pillagers and villains and robbers, and yet probably more likely to get beaten or murdered. Now, life's easier than it's ever been, and yet people have less pain tolerance than they've ever had. The problem is actually the problem is not the problem that we think it is. The problem is the way that people are perceiving the problem. That's the problem.
I think the way you're talking about life is for a very select few. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that are very fortunate to have opportunities because of the decisions and routes that they took. The that lifestyle that you're talking about is still out there outside of the United States. If
Correct.
we're strictly talking about the United States, I think the vast majority of people, I mean, upwards of 70% now, are either living paycheck by paycheck, and they don't have the opportunities that that we talk about here, because they're not entrepreneurs, they're not business owners. So what can you do if you're stuck at a dead end job because you made poor opportunities or poor life decisions, or you're just stuck from something else? They escape. They do temporary fixes, where it's video games, where it's pornography, where it's doom scrolling, and that's it. That's all, the only joys that they have. And I hate
I,
to say it, but I've seen this multiple times. I mean,
I
it's
yeah. Listen, I don't disagree with you in that regard, but I disagree in the sense that one is that, like, to that point, people are doom scrolling, watching porn, playing video games, whatever the case may be. That's why I say too, is like life used to be a lot harder. You wouldn't have had time. And I'm not even talking about like, a few years ago. I'm talking about like medieval times, maybe even later than the medieval times, colonial times, before the internet and all this crap was done, right? Like, what were they doing when they had free time? They couldn't scroll, and they didn't really have free time because life was a lot harder back then, right? And now, if you look even in today's day and age, the funny thing is, and I get what you're saying, like, and I'm not talking about people that are privileged and people that are doing well in life. I'm talking about the general person. Most of them are looking for the release because they don't enjoy the problems that they encounter. And they don't enjoy the problems that they encounter because they have zero desire to solve them. I used to get people coming into my therapy office who would complain about their lives all the time. This is why I hated traditional therapy. They would come into my office and they would bitch about their life. I had this one woman, never forget her, because she fascinated me. And she fascinated me because I could not understand the way she looked at life, not because I didn't want to, but because I just thought it was absurd to think this way. She worked not even a 9 to 5. She worked like an 8 to 2 or an 8 to 3. And she made a decent salary, maybe like $50,000, $60,000, which realistically not terrible for those hours. She was off on the weekends. She was out of work by 3 o'clock, and she had all the holidays off. She had summer breaks. She was in the school system, right? So she had, like, mind you, school people who are in the DOE, the school systems in the U.S. work like 180 days out of the year. They basically work half a year, right? And that's because of all the time off. And she would sit there and she would complain about money. And I'd say, well, you get out of work at 3. Why don't you go do something else? Oh, no, no, no. I can't do that. Why not? Why? I need my time at home. Why? What are you doing at home? Well, I want to relax. I just worked a long day. I'm like, all right, what about your weekends? No, I need my weekends. Why do you need your weekends? Well, because I got to see my friends and everybody else. I'm like, but then what are you doing during the week? Because you're not doing anything after 3. Oh, well, that's when I relax for myself. I'm like, okay, so then what's the weekend? She's like, well, that's when I relax with other people. And I'm like, okay. So you don't like your job, you don't like your money, but you're also completely unwilling to do anything about it. And so, yes, you're right. Like, there's an escape to it. Yet, a lot of it is personal self-inflicted problems and pain because people are unwilling to do anything about their circumstance. They'd rather just bitch and moan and complain. And here's the other truth. They want to play the victim because they feel like their life is not very significant. And so when you look at people's human needs, significance is one of them. And the interesting thing is that if you don't feel like your life is significant, you can actually find significance in the size and scope of your problems. So now we have this permanent, pervasive problem that you just don't make enough money, life is unfair, you have no time to do the things you would like to do, and then if you did have the time, you still don't have the money because you don't work enough, and blah, blah, blah. And all of these problems start giving you a sense of significance. Like, look at me. Look at how difficult my life is. Look at how hard it is. And it's crazy to me. I was a firefighter. I worked with people dying. I worked in an inpatient unit. I worked with schizophrenics. Like, life is actually very, very difficult if you choose very difficult routes. And most people don't choose difficult routes. They make
That's
life
it, though.
difficult in their mind.
That's it right there. They
Yep.
made that life. They made those choices. And if they don't
That's
choose
right.
to better their choices, then they're essentially going to dopamine hits.
Yep.
You made a statement there for saying that life used to be harder back in medieval times or even earlier or later. I I think that's very opinionated. I think life is very simple back then, right? All they had to do was to go get water, go get food, find shelter. That was it, right? Even if you look at things back when Christ was there and around the people that's being in there, their entertainment was playing outside with other kids, with other adults. Their festivities and gatherings were very easy. Everybody brought what they brought. I understand as far as hard, as far as, disease and things like that, but it was a very simplistic lifestyle. If you want to compare that to today's day and age, it's very difficult, especially let's compare it to a successful business owner or an entrepreneur who makes a ton of money, the clients that you deal with on a day-to-day basis who are making 10, 20, 30 million dollars that are completely stressed out of their mind, right? More monies comes more problems, comes with more responsibilities. It's no longer yourself. You have to oversee the people that you essentially work for you. Anyways, I'm going down a tangent that I don't want to go down
I'd
towards,
I'd
but
still disagree with you on that.
it's the only thing that money provides is opportunities that it goes down
No,
to.
no, no.
But the
I'm not
subject,
talking the money part.
okay. Well, I want to talk about back to the good thing because I think it really is a good topic. And
Sure.
I still think that this is the root of all evil. And I personally,
Got it.
unfortunately, witnessed it myself sometimes where I've had a long day at work and I'm completely mentally drained and I go downstairs and then guess what happens? I get 10 emails that come up. My team is messaging me that needs me and I still need to work for another hour. And then this is me coming downstairs ready, seeing my kids and my kids are, daddy, daddy. And they give me big hugs and I still have to work. I have to get things done. But should I put my priorities there? Should I give them a big hug and kiss? Absolutely. Do I most times? Absolutely. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard when you're completely drained from a long 14-hour day of work, 12-hour day at work, not a 5-hour day or whatever the case may be. But it's hard to be a good thinker sometimes when you're running on autopilot, when you're running on fumes. I would love to hear the advice for, when you woke up at 5 a.m., working out, meditating, ready for the day, putting a 8 to 12-hour work day in, and then coming out and then cooking or providing for your family or wanting to play games with your kids and not just sitting on the couch and watching a movie with your kids. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear the advice that you have there because it's even for me sometimes, and I'm willing to admit I am guilty of just turning on a movie with my kids because it's easy and I'm zonked and I just want to sit there with both of them. Instead, I should be playing toys with them or, reading or doing something that's going to help them grow mentally. So I'd love to hear something in regards to getting back to being a good thinker, especially on those real tough times. I think that would help me out and help our audience out.
So one thing I would say is there's space for both. Every now and then it's fine to be a fucking lazy shit. Just do it. Just like, hey, I'm tired today. As long as you're not making a habit of it, there's nothing wrong with that. There are some days, and like there are some days too, I'll go downstairs and I'll see Sage and I'll be like, I want to watch a movie with you because I'm tired, but I want to cuddle with you. So
Right.
that's what we're going to do. Right. But for the most part, and especially, how rough Janny's pregnancy has been, she's been like, even though she wasn't clinically told to be bedridden, she's kind of been bedridden.
Right.
So for 3 months, I was living exactly as you said. My days would start at like 5 a.m., maybe earlier, because I needed to get a jump on the day. I would go to the gym and come home. I would cook. I would get food for my family. I would take care of my daughter, take care of Channy. Then I would start working. Then I'd probably work until like 8 or 9 p.m. Then I would have to cook if food wasn't made, and usually it wasn't because she was laying in bed. And then I would wind up cleaning up, and then I would try to unwind and play with my daughter a little, and then put her to bed, and then probably sleep at about 12, and then do it all again on 5 hours of sleep. And the biggest thing that I've realized is it's a lot of it's your framing of life. I will sit there and I'll say, this is my duty as a man.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm built for. This is why God made man, to handle bigger burdens. This is why I'm the leader of the family. This is why if we get married, she takes my last name. This is why my children will understand that there is no limits to life. This is what my duty is. This is what my purpose is. And I also like to throw in a few mantras. There are times where life could feel hard. And so telling myself things that I truly believe it, by the way. I think if you tell yourself a mantra and you don't believe it, it's useless. It's just like some bullshit saying. But I believe in my mantras, and they're reminders. They keep me grounded because I believe in them. One of my favorite mantras is that I always like to say, every way and every day my life gets better and better. Another one that I have for myself is, so like you said a lot before, you have to do this. Like you have to play with your kid. You have to make time for the friend, for the wife. You have to make time for the business.
Priorities.
Gratitude. Well, no, I know, but the wording you used is interesting, because gratitude is a big part of life. The more grateful you feel, the less stressed you feel, because stress and gratitude can't exist in the same space. So transitioning one word from I have to I get to is a very massive, very subtle, but very massive shift. I get to go spend time with my kid is very different than I have to spend time with my kid. And so things feel heavier when they feel like obligations as opposed to privileges. So a lot of the things that I do that are difficult are privileges. I look at my problems as the privileges of the life I want. I wouldn't have to take care of my kid if I wasn't privileged to be a father. I wouldn't have to figure out shit in my business if I wasn't privileged enough to have one. You know, and so every problem actually has a level of gratitude that could come with it if you see the problem is not a problem, but something that is conspiring to continue to make you a better man and give you a better quality of life. And so on my hardest days, I just say, like, this is what I'm built for. I'm a machine. You know, this is what my burden is. And the burden of a man is to be one that is bound by duty and service to others. So most days, that's how I attack life. There are some days where I'm like, I'm just going to chill. I'm going to play a video game and watch a movie. I'll let my daughter watch a movie while I play a video game just so that she doesn't bother me while I play. But I don't make a habit of that. I'll allow myself to do it because I'm like, dude, you crush it every day. Go play that video game. Let her watch a movie. Like, who gives a shit? She could deal with a little alone time. You smother her, you know? And so I think that's what it is.
I love the fact that you give yourselves mantras, right? I mean, I think specifically calling to out entrepreneurs, it's a very lonely lifestyle. And having a mantra and like saying that to yourself, kind of like giving yourself that encouragement, that pat on the back, I feel like that's really freaking awesome. I usually write down like some quotes. As you well know, I had a whiteboard on my desk, and usually me or even sometimes my wife will write down little like love you notes or little quotes. I wouldn't call it a mantra, but I think just for that gives you that little entitlement, like, of why you do things. Right? We talk a lot about on this podcast is it's selfless, it's humility, it's the reason why you do it. You know, like yours is I'm privileged to do this because I'm a father, because I'm a future husband, hopefully soon. But sorry, I don't want to go too far into that one too, but I hope I get to go to the wedding whenever that happens. But you essentially you get to do these things. I think that's really one I want to stick with. I love my kids. I love my faith in Christ. I love my relationship with my wife, and I love all of my team members on my businesses, and I get the privilege to honor them the best way that I can as a man and as a leader. So I love that. I just want to kind of recap it and say I think that's phenomenal.
So it's all about, man. And then that's the journey, reminding yourself about that every day. There's no one specific thing. I used to drive myself crazy doing like 3-hour morning routines until I realized I'm an idiot for doing that. Because if you figure out what works for you, that's all you got to do. And it might just be one thing or two things. So you keep figuring out your thing. I'll keep developing my thing. And everybody who's listening, go figure out your own shit too. Take some of the thoughts from here and then make them your own. That's how it is. Personal development is just that. It's personal. So figure it out. So with that being said, everybody, we hope that you enjoyed this OG Dual podcast with Shane and VIN and Shane, however you want to call it. Tune in to another episode of the 1% podcast. Don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe, comment, and connect with us. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. As always, I'm your host, VIN,
and I'm Shane.
See you, everybody.